Hey guys, welcome back to another Warframe Eidolon Guides 2022/23 video. Today we are going to be looking at how you can gather your lures during Eidolon hunts more efficiently in a solo squad. So not even a squad, but just solo. So this video is basically going to revolve around where you can get lures from, or where you should get lures from, depending on where the terror list spawns at the start of each of your hunts. And it's then also going to look at how you can get those lures charged, ready for your Hydra capture at the end of each hunt. And then past that, we'll also look at some tips and tricks, and perhaps some things you didn't know about, how many Vonvalists spawn at each given location, at the end of each fight, and all that good stuff. And hopefully it will prove useful for you guys in your hunts. So in terms of running through the build, obviously I've run through this in a few of my other guide videos, so the only things that I'm going to be looking at in this little bit here is going to be my Parazon, the Zenith, because I haven't actually, I don't think I've shown off the build for that in a previous Eidolon guide video, so we'll have a look at that as well. We might also look a bit at Volt, but it's not going to be too necessary. And then also our Archwing, which again is not really that necessary either, actually, because mine isn't built out very much at all on this account. So let's start off by looking at Volt here. Basically, I've got Rush on just for a bit of extra speed, but if you do have Prime Sure-Footed, that's probably where you want to put it. Rush isn't necessary. You want your strength to be around the 200% mark. If you've got Tau Forge shards or shards in general, then obviously that's going to help. I've also got Arcane Acceleration on here to improve the fire rate of my Zenith. That's personal preference. If you are comfortable with the fire rate of your primary weapon, then by all means go ahead and put something else on, like Arcane Energize. It doesn't really matter at all. For our primary, like I said, we've got Zenith on here. This is built around multi-shot, crit chance, and crit damage. I have a nice Riven mod on here for plus multi-shot and crit damage, negative damage to Grineer, which obviously doesn't matter against Eidolons. And if we take a look here at my semi-automatic fire, I've got crit chance at 105% and crit multiplier at 9.9, together with a total damage output of 5,248. So that's the build that I'm running with this. And then the only other thing kind of on this bit here, for this video at least, is the Parazon. There is one mod on here which I would highly recommend you get your hands on, which is Runtime, which gives you plus 75% sprint speed for 15 seconds after hacking. Now this is really important because every time you hack a lure, it is going to give you a massive speed boost, which is obviously going to help you gather up your lures much quicker. We've also got Auto Breach on here. I'm running this, personal preference. I only like to use one cipher per run, which is right at the start for my fast charge. The rest I collect just manually, so Auto Breach really helps me out in terms of saving time. If this goes off, then I insta-hack a lure and all's good. So, if you are trying to save on ciphers, then go ahead and put this on. And then I've also got Livewire on here, which shocks enemies surrounding the lure when you hack it, which can be quite useful for just CCing enemies in general. The alternative to this would be the mod that makes you go invisible. Unfortunately, I don't have it on this account, and I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but there is a mod that you can put on that allows you to go invisible for a short time after hacking, so that's another option there. And if we take a quick look at our Archwing here, that's not it. This is it. If we take a look at our Archwing here, we basically, again, not maxed this out in any way, shape or form. In fact, we don't even have a maxed enhanced durability. But, Hyperion thrusters, close to maxed, system reroute, bit of range to suck Vonvalists in with, cold snap to CC Vonvalists, and that's about all you need to know for this bit of the build. So, hopefully that's kind of run through everything. Obviously, if you are going to be using ciphers, make sure you've got loads of them. I've only got one right now. But, if you're doing the same as me and you're using only one per run, then you should only need 6 ciphers every time you go into a hunt. So, yeah, without further ado, guys, let's jump into the plains and just do a quick run through of what we're going to do. And then we'll take a look at some clips of gathering lures in each location that I think, each kind of circuit you can take to gather up your lures. And then we'll move on to getting them charged, and then past that, we'll look at just some tips and tricks and things you might not know about Vonvalist counts and things like that. So yeah, I'll meet you guys in the plains. Alright guys, so before we get into this, I just want to say right off the bat that we're not going to be looking at lure fast charging. If you want to know how that's done, how you get that nice and early first lure charged, you want to go and have a look at my fast charging guide video, which I will leave a link to down in the description. In fact, I'll probably just leave a link to our Warframe guides so far this year. So if you want to know how to do that, go and have a look at that. We go into detail on fast hacking lures, getting those early 3 Vonvalists when you're playing solo. it's definitely worth having a look at before you take a look at this video, because obviously that starts the hunt. But for this little bit here, we're just going to have a look at lure locations. So if we open up the map here, when you think about where your terrorist can spawn at the start of each night, really it's only above this kind of bottom right bit of Garrotot. So where my cursor is currently moving, I'm just trying to like draw a line across the map here to cut the map off. That's all you want to be looking at. There's a load of lures down here. In fact, there's like a double lure over here and one over here. You can pretty much ignore those, in my opinion. They're not necessary at all. You want to be worrying about lures in this larger bit of the map up here. Bottom right, completely useless. So the main lure gathering loop that you want to focus on for most of the terrorist spawns is going to start at Hex Stiletto, and it's going to kind of revolve around this patch of land over here. Because within this kind of area, you can gather up a lot of lures very quickly. They're very close together, relatively speaking. Now, that being said, you will get some terrorist spawns which are, you know, right up here in the top left, and also right up here close to the Seethe, just about where I am now. And there's also some in kind of around here to the right of Renthi Spring. So there's a few routes that you can take, and we'll be looking at all of those individually, and we'll be looking at clips as to how I like to gather those lures depending on where the terrorist spawns. But the main one that, you know, all beginner hunters or even, you know, decently experienced hunters should know about is kind of starting at Hex Stiletto, or at least to the north of Garrotot Lake, just over here. So what we'll do, we'll jump into a quick clip. We'll look at gathering up lures in all of these different kind of locations, or the loops that I like to do depending on where the terrorist spawns. And then we'll regroup back here, and then we'll start looking at getting those lures charged up. So I'll see you guys in a second. Alright guys, so for this first route we're going to do, we are going to focus on that one starting at Hex Stiletto, or around the bottom left side of the map. So we're going to do our fast charge here, and then we're going to look to gather 2 lures during the terrorist fight. So while we're taking out the limbs, we're going to get the first one after the second limb is taken down, and we're going to get the second one after the third limb is taken down. So we'll see that here. After we've taken down this first limb, we are just going to chill, make sure we're nice and set up for the terrorist fight, and then we'll go and get our lures after that. So that's first limb. Let's go ahead and just set up, make sure we're ready. And then there's a lure nice and close to us on this lake right here, which we're going to gather, which is in that bottom left group of lures. So we're going to get the first one here. Bear in mind you just collect whichever lure is closest in this bunch for the first limb, and then obviously the second closest for the second limb, which for us is either the one to the north of us or behind the one we just collected, which is what we're going to get in this instance. So we're just going to nip over here. Very nice. Now because we're going to be away from that camp for a while, it's going to allow the lure to respawn, so we can actually use it for another lure, which is very handy, as you will see. So we'll just park our lures here. We'll explain the charging methods after this sort of round of lure gathering tips. So there we go, the lure has spawned back at this camp. And now we're going to make use of this bottom left close group of lures and just literally work our way around in a circle. And then there's 2 up here at Hex Stiletto, which after we've got those, will account for all 8 of the lures that we're going to need. Oh, bit of a bump. And there we go. Now we can head back. And the Eidolon's just standing up. So now what we want to do is we want to head over and we'll take a look at one of the loops to the top right now, I think. And then after that, we will take a look at the top left. So I'll see you guys in a second. Alright guys, so top right, we're going to do exactly the same kind of technique as we did before. In this case, we are going to utilise a camp or 2 camps twice, as opposed to the first one where we only used 1 camp twice, but we'll see that as we go. So once again, we'll get that first additional lure after we take down the second limb of the terrorist, and then the second additional lure after the third limb gets taken down. I think we do a bit of a messy start here, to be honest. Shot slightly too early. But once again, right here, we are just going to take our time and just set up so that we're nice and ready. And then the first lure we want to gather around the top right is going to be actually behind where the terrorist is right now. So just over this ridge, we've got one. And that's the one that we are going to get, or we're going to farm again for another lure when we actually come to do the rounds. The next lure is right behind us now. At this camp right here. And now, once again, we'll park our lures under the terror list and go and gather the remaining 5. Once again, you want to just gather the lure that is closest to you first. So, you know, your terrorist could spawn anywhere in this top right corner, but you want to be making use of the same bunch of lures. So there we go, we got the same lure again in that camp. Now we're going to go up here to the sea, then we're going to get 2 more. There's always 2 at this camp. The next one's hiding at the back over here. It's not always there, but it can be. Then the next one's going to be up this hill. And we're going to make use of that same camp again that's just below us, where we got our second additional lure from. And there we go. That's all 5 we need. So now let's move on to the top left. And then after that, we'll take a look at, obviously, what you're going to need to charge these lures. Okay guys, so after about 104 runs, we didn't get a single long spawn. So I'm about to do something really stupid, which you shouldn't do. So I was just loading in our missions until I was getting one, but then I gave up and just, yeah, decided that we'd do the route anyway, but from a different spawn. So we've actually got bottom left here, so with this spawn you should usually do, the route around the center of the map, as we were showing before, but yeah. I just wanted to record, obviously, what you would do if you did get top left, so yeah, you're about to see it, and it's not like the smoothest just because of how far we have to fly, but hopefully it gives you an idea of where to get your lures from. So once again, we just got over here. Unfortunately, because I was obviously looking for that Eidolon to begin with, we didn't get ourselves that 3rd Vonvalist, or 4th Vonvalist even. But right here, we are going to fly off to the top left. And the first lure you want to get when you're on top left is the one under here, in this little cavern. And then we head back. And then the next one is actually on the hill just behind that little cavern. And I'm a bit blind here because I'm trying to do this very quickly. There's a lure right underneath me right now, as you can see. But, you know, if there's 2 at this camp, that's important to note. We will be starting our route at that hill. And there we go. So we'll park up our lures, and then we'll fly straight back to that hill. And what we're going to do, we're going to collect the 2 lures at that hill, and then immediately fly over to the seethe, which is just on the other side of the hill and down a bit. And we'll pick up the 2 lures that are over there. So 2 lures there. We actually get shot down here, so we've got a re-arc wing. And the 2 lures down here. And then we can get 1 on the way back to what would be top left, but unfortunately in this instance it's not spawned because there's another lure that's hogging the capacity back at the Eidolon at the same camp that we're at, as you'll see when we land, just over there. So yeah, that's the route you want to take, guys. So I think what we'll do now, we'll obviously go into a bit of explanation on charging, and then we'll move on to have a look at a clip of that. Okay guys, so hopefully those routes were useful for you and you kind of know where you want to be getting your lures from depending on where the terrorist spawns. But now we're going to have a think about Vonvalists and getting your lures and charged nice and ready for those Hydralist captures. So if we think about past the fast charge, so that's the first lure, we have 7 lures left, and in order to get all of them charged, each of them need 3 Vonvalists, so we need a total of 21 Vonvalists. Now there's also the caveat that at each point after each fight, you're going to need a set number of lures fully charged. So obviously a lure can hold 2 charges, and you can have 4 lures with 2 charges and none of them be fully charged, which means you can't anchor an Eidolon down. So after the terrorist, you obviously need at least 3 lures fully charged, so that you have 1 then left over to hold the Gantalist in place. And then for the Gantalist, you need at least 4 lures fully charged at the end of the fight, so that you have 1 left over to hold the Hydralist in place. So on the terrorist, when the terrorist falls down, you take out the last limb. There are 4 Vonvalists that spawn. Now that will either leave you with 2 lures on 2 charges, or one lure fully charged, which is more common, and one lure that is, you know, single charged. That means that when the Eidolon starts standing back up and Vonvalists start spawning underneath him again, you will only need 2 more Vonvalists before you have 3 fully charged lures. So if you're running something like an on-call crewmate and you're listening out for Vonvalist popping sounds, which we will, you know, we'll see all of this in a second, then you want to wait for 2 Vonvalists to pop, and if all's gone well, you should get 3 charged lures. You can then drag under the rest of your lures to the Terrorist and collect any further Vonvalists that spawn. So when the Terrorist stands back up, you get 5 Vonvalists that spawn underneath him for a total of 9. Now that will allow you to have, if you're lucky, 4 charged lures after the Terrorist fight. Now they might spread themselves out, you know, differently along your lures, but it is possible to get 4 charged after the Terrorist fight without gathering any extra. Just from when he stands up, you get an extra 5. You can then charge an additional, you know, lure. So bear that in mind. It's the same pattern as well for the Gantalist and the Hydralist. When the Gantalist falls down, you get 4 Vonvalists. When he stands back up, you get 5 Vonvalists, and so on and so on and so on. So when we think about how many Vonvalists we need to charge the lures, like we said, we need 21 Vonvalists. So after the Terrorist goes down, after the Terrorist fight, we've got 9. So that gets us up to, you know, 9 Vonvalists. When the Gantalist goes down, we get another 9. So that should get us up to 18 out of 21 Vonvalists. So in theory, if you collect all of the Vonvalists from when the Gantalist stands back up, you should only need an extra 3 in order to fully charge all of your lures. Now, you want to get those when the Gantalist is in its down phase, because obviously you don't need to gather lures at this point like you did for the Terrorist, and you should usually be able to collect about 4 when you are doing this. And again, we'll have a look at this in action. However, if you do not obviously gather all of them at Gantalist, then you should be able to get the rest on Hydralist. Now, if you are on the 6th run, and I'll again show another demonstration of this in a second, then you do want to be collecting all of the Vonvalists that you can and getting all of your lures charged before the Hydralist spawn if you are short of time. But bear in mind that if you are able to take down all 6 limbs of the Hydralist before it turns to day, then you will get Vonvalists still spawning underneath him, even if it turns to daytime when he is down, and we will show a clip of that in action. So I think it's going to be best, guys, if we just pop into a quick run and just demonstrate these Vonvalists spawning, so you guys can see, you know, exactly when you should be picking up each Vonvalist out of the 21 that you need to charge all 7 extra lures that you will have. So let's jump in. Alright guys, so right here we're just about to take out the last limb of the Terrorist, and as soon as you take out the last limb, a Vonvalist will spawn. Unfortunately, we cap this one, or we get this Vonvalist instantly, so I'm trying to slow this down a bit, but you probably won't see it. You might hear it though. There was a small blue burst there, but that's 1, that was 2, 3, and then there'll be 1 more after that. So you can see we've got 2 blue lures right there, and 1 yellow, which has 1 charge in it. Our on-call crewmate is over there right now, just, you know, stationary. He's firing a Tenet Cyclone at the Eidolon, which is going to help us cap the Vonvalists underneath it whilst we're not there. So we don't have to worry really about getting back in good time. But as you'll see, we will do, and then we'll have a count of the Vonvalists that spawn under the Terrorist. So let's head back. So that's 1 after this next one. 2, there we go, we got a blue lure now. And then the rest, we should get another 3 we can put into the other lures we have. So we should have got an extra 5 Vonvalists there when the Terrorist stood up. But we'll go ahead now and take a look at the end of the Gantalist to prove that theory. Alright, so last limb of Gantalist right here. So what we're going to do, exactly the same as when the Terrorist went down, although we don't have on-call crewmate, but we can count this time. So there's the first Vonvalist. 2 Vonvalists there. And the last one, as you saw there was a damage number that came up. It spawns inside the Gantalist as he goes down. We get an extra 2 Vonvalists over here. Unfortunately, we're unable to find another set. So in theory, when the Gantalist stands up, we should get another 5. which will leave us, as we've seen by the calculations earlier, it will leave us 1 Vomvalist short. So if you do want to get all of your lures charged before the Hydralisk, if you are tight for time, then you will need 2 pairs of Vomvalists at that point. So, you know, you don't necessarily need to, you know, place pre-shields or whatever. Make sure, you know, if you are tight on time, that you go ahead and you have a look for that extra pair of Vomvalists. And as you can see there, we still have 1 yellow lure. That will have 1 charged left, or only one more Vomvalist. So I think what we will do is, rather than obviously me just saying this, we'll go ahead and have a look at a run where after the Gantalist we do get that extra pair of Vomvalists, and then yeah, we'll probably call it there. Alright guys, so exactly the same scenario here. We're just coming up to the end of Gantalist. We'll see we get 4 Vomvalists when he goes down. There we go. There's 1. We get 2 there. And the 3rd one inside him. There we go. So now we're going to get 2 pairs of Vomvalists. So we see the first one here. And the second one just up this hill behind us. It's always a good spot to look on. So what you see now, when this Gantalist goes down, we'll still get the 5 Vomvalists when he stands back up. Sorry, yeah. And then, yeah, you'll see, obviously, we'll take 3 as he starts standing up. 1 there. We get another 2 here. So that's 3. And then we need 2 more, and that lure should be charged. But it should only take 1 to charge it, if the maths is correct. There we go, fully charged. So hopefully that all makes sense. What we'll do, I think, now is just, you know, go back to the ship, bit of a recap, and then we'll round off the video. So I'll see you guys in a second. Okay guys, so I think I managed to cover everything I wanted to there. Obviously there are a few little bits that we could have gone into in a bit more detail, but to be honest, this video is already getting pretty long. And yeah, I don't want to just throw everything at this. At the end of the day, gathering up lures and lure management just takes practice, practice, practice. Just do runs, you know, over and over again. Don't fret about, you know, making mistakes in Eidolon hunts, because if you, like, make a mistake and you just stop the hunt, then you're not gonna get better. So if you do make a mistake, particularly when lure gathering or whatever, then just carry on. And then you will just continually get better at it. And your lure management skills will improve. But if you do have any specific questions about some, you know, various tactics and strategies for lure management, or if you have any suggestions yourself down in the comments below, please go ahead and let me know. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave a like and subscribe if you did, and I will catch you in the next one. I'll see you later, guys.